Methods. These are simply the equivalent of functions. So the Java equivalent of functions. All right, I think the best way to explain this is to just work through an example. So we have a program called test. It starts with the main function or the main method that goes from here to here. And then after that, we go directly to this. There'll be another method called get that does something, another one called add that does something, and there's more on the next page. I'll explain them as we go along. So the first thing that happens is we get ourselves a number. So what does that mean? So x is a variable. Get is the name of a method. So we go to the get method. It's got this public static double stuff. We'll get to that later. So there's input. Oh, it's going to say type in a number. I'm going to get a number and return the number. So the number gets returned to x. So imagine it says type in a number, and we'll type ourselves a number. So type in a number. I don't know, maybe we'll use the number 5. And when we type that in, that number goes into x. All right, so x gets what's returned from the get function. And then we do the same thing with y. So the exact same thing appears on the screen. It'll say type in a number. We'll type in another number and something else will happen. So let's say the second number we type in is 7. So y is now 7. Okay, so x is 5, y is 7. Oh, it looks like we're going to add these two numbers together. So we'll go to the add function. It's expecting a double and another double. So why doubles? Why not integers? You'll often find with programmers that because of the way Java does math, it's easier if you just make everything a double, and then the code will work for integers and doubles. That's why you'll see everything a double in this program. Then what happens? We have a variable called sum. Sum is going to equal the answer of a plus b, so 5 and 7 is 12. And then that answer gets returned to result. So result is now 12. So what's going on with these different variable names? In the real world, when you program, nobody sits down and writes a 1,000-line program. That's just craziness. Generally, you have someone work on the main line or the main function or the main method, and other people work on the other methods. And we don't want to have to keep saying, oh, what variables are you using? What order are you using in them? So instead, we tend to say, I'm going to send you 2 doubles, and I would like you to give me the addition answer and send me the result back. So the programmer goes, right, the add function, I'm expecting 2 doubles, and I need to return a double when I give you the answer. Ah, that's what's going on here. So in the main line, I use x and y. In the methods, I use a and b. And it just keeps everything actually less confusing once you get used to it. So how does the get function work? The get says, don't expect anything from me, but make sure you give me an answer in return. Okay, so don't expect anything from me. That's why that's empty. But you're returning a number. And what kind of number are you returning? You're returning a double. Okay, so that's how these work. This is the variable getting returned. This is the name of the method or the function. And these are the variables it needs to do the work. Print 5, 7, 12 on the word sum. Okay, this is on the next page. So 5, 7, 12, and a string word, which is the word sum. So this will now print the sum of 5 and 7 is 12. Beautiful. Now this is a particularly good function. What's good about this one? You can send it any word. So if I want to say the product, the quotient, the difference, I don't have to rewrite my function. So a sign of a good method is you can do more than one thing. So these divide and add functions, they're kind of lame. but we'll just use these to get used to what we're doing. All right, what happens next? Then we ask for a new result where we divide x and y. So 5 and 7 get shipped to the divide function. So 5 and 7 come in here. We're going to divide 5 and 7. The result goes in quotient. It's 0 point something. And that gets returned over here to this result. So whatever 5 divided by 7 is. And then we print 5, 7, whatever 5 divided by 7 is, and the word quotient. So now we come here. This would not be 12 anymore. It'd be 5 divided by 7. And instead of sum, it would be the word quotient. So you see how marvelous this particular method is. It works for all kinds of things. So now it would say the quotient of 5 and 7 is whatever 5 divided by 7 is. And that's our whole program. So how is this better? Your main line should now be cleaner. Your main line should look a little more like English. There should be less math involved. Someone reading it should say, okay, you're getting a couple of numbers, you add them, you print a result, you divide them, you print a result. I can follow that. They don't need the fine details. The fine details are done in the method. Where to put stuff. After you close your main method or your main function, you then put your methods. And your class ends here. So this method begins and ends, this one begins and ends, and this says we're now finished the whole class. What else can I tell you? What's all this public stuff? You'll notice all these methods started with the word public. So it's just a method that can be used by other methods. For example, the divide method could call print within it. Print could call the divide method. And if you don't want that to happen, you only want the main method to access things, then you use the word private instead of public. What's this static all about? I keep seeing public static. It just says that the class method can be called from the class. So the method print and divide can all be called from the class test. And this will make more sense when we have more classes. Okay, what else? Void. What's that void about? So the return type void means the method does not return a variable. Let's see where that comes in. So here's void, and we said this is the kind of variable being returned. So when we returned a double, you'll see I have to return something. When you're not returning anything, void, you'll see there's nothing here. Nothing is being returned, and we just have to tell the compiler this is void. Okay, what are you doing? Assignment 9A. Good news. Write a program using methods that will add, subtract, multiply, and divide two numbers. So copy the code and then look at how we wrote the code for adding and dividing. And you just write two new methods for subtracting and multiplying. You'll have to do a little bit of work in here to actually call the multiplying and subtracting, and you'll have to print the answers. But that's it. Should give you a bit of an idea what you're doing. After that, you're moving on to 9B. Now, 9A is a little bit wimpy. Methods can be much longer than one line. I'm making you do this just to get an idea of how methods work, but in 9B, write bigger ones. So in 9B, I think that's the conversion from Celsius to Fahrenheit and back. So you really only need two methods for that one. Just write one big conversion method. It'll take temperature, convert from one thing to another. And you might be asking, how do I decide where the code goes? So essentially think of the main line as the traffic director. So this person is the one who say, you go here, you go there, you do this, you do that. So all your if statements, all your while statements, all your repeats would go in the main method. Your methods are simple little things. They do one job. So if you're converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit, I might have a function called Celsius to Fahrenheit. It takes a temperature, does all the work, and then either returns the answer to the traffic cop or prints the answer here. So how do you know where to put things? All decisions happen in the main. All work happens in the other functions. All right, do the best you can.